Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Well, I guess it's never a happy ending when you have to open up anything you're doing with the passing of yet another familiar. Now, obviously, Gil Gerard for you, most of you guys is not going to resonate as much as Rob Reiner did, but I grew up in an era where Glenn Larson dominated television and shows like it dominated. So, Battlestar Galactica, A Team. They just put these shows out there as quickly as they could. They got their steam and they rolled out and they put in another show. Buck Rogers in the 25th century was one of those. And Buck Rogers actually this show, cheesy as it was 1980. Its pilot episode actually got a theatrical release. I remember being 6 years old and going um to see Buck Rogers in the 25th century. And to be quite honest with you, it wasn't. I don't know who the show was for, but I remember it being very risque for the time. Scantily clad women. I mean, it was aimed towards families, pretty much. I mean, that's what it was on NBC. And I remember there being all kinds of stuff. The opening reminded me more of a James Bond um, movie opening where we had like the naked women and they would be blurred out, and then James Bond's silhouette would be shooting. That's what it reminded me of. But it was different. It was different, and it was like I said, the only real thing that I know him from, but it's huge. It's almost like Sam Wilson knowing him for Flash Gordon, even though he did other things, he's always gonna be Flash Gordon. And I even asked him that when I got to meet him at Comic Con. I never actually had a chance to meet Buck Rogers, but if you were a kid in the early '80s, the thing about these type of shows that were on was that no matter how good or bad they were, they developed your mind. They opened your mind and made it to where other science fiction stuff could come in. Buck Rogers might not have kicked down the door for you, but it left it slightly ajar so other things could seep in, and it was just that simple. Buck Rogers was out there. Obviously, Star Wars was out there. Um, and Buck Rogers existed before. I mean, Buck Rogers, Buster Crabbe did Buck Rogers in the 30s. It wasn't until I saw, as a kid, knew he even existed. I was not watching the serials. I was not watching the movies, the 1930s movies. I mean, it's just that wasn't my genre at the time. I would get into that much later on. But Gil Gerard's Buck Rogers. Now he passed away at 82. And apparently, he was battling cancer last year, and it was an aggressive form of cancer. He hadn't been around doing public appearances in a while, to the point where people were asking, where was he? Type of situations. 82's up there, but it's not, it's not the end of the line. A lot of these guys, I mean, Shatner's 95. A lot of these guys, doing the convention circuits, they're just living out their lives. I mean, you see a lot of them when you go to, Comic-Con, or when you go to Star Trek convention, or when you go to a science fiction horror fantasy convention. But Gil Gerard was just one of those who didn't really do a lot. He made a huge impact, especially on me, but you really didn't. I'm trying to bring up one of the pictures that StreamYard is not letting me do, which is always fun. Here we go. Buck Rogers came out the year that I saw Flash Gordon, if I can recall right. It actually hit TV the year that I saw Flash Gordon. So 1980 was probably mentally as a child, probably defining what the genre that I would gravitate towards, was probably one of the most important years of my entire life. You had Flash Gordon, that introduced me into Queen, that introduced me into Flash Gordon, and then you had Buck Rogers. Then you had a bunch of cheesy. You combine all this to the Saturday morning cartoons I was watching. So there you go, Buck Rogers. And this is back in an era where even if it was a TV show, this is the ad for Buck Rogers that appeared in the TV Guide in the 1980s when they right after they did the pilot in the theaters. This was at painted stuff. This is the way they did it back then. It was kind of cool because if you look at the artwork for Flash Gordon, which was a cinematic release, theatrically released movie, and this is on TV. And there you go to the right, Princess Adala there, wearing as little as she could get away with on network TV. You have Tiger, you had all, there was a lot of cool stars. A lot of cool stars came through this show, and it wasn't on for that. I think it got a year or two. Hold on. As a kid, I don't remember. It seems like it lasted forever as a kid, but all right. So it debuted 2 seasons, 37 episodes. It seemed like forever. Once again, it's Glenn A. Larson. So it aired from September 20th, 1979 to April 20th, 1970. And then you had the movie that was in there that doesn't count as a part of the episode, but it actually premiered as a movie. Gil Gerard, Captain William Buck Rogers, Aaron Gray, who was hot. I mean, all of us kids had crushes on her. I mean, Mel Blanc, who did a lot. He did Twinkie's voice, the robot Mel Blanc. If you don't know Mel Blanc by that name, think Bugs Bunny. That's the voice he did, Bugs Bunny. So yeah, Buck Rogers in 25th century was like I said, and then it had the space shuttle in it. This was a cool thing, and seeing him pass away today, like I said, this has been a really, really fucked up last 5 days, guys. But yeah, he died peacefully at his home at the age of 82, according to his wife. Buck Rogers, man, if you look at my Twitter, which I'm using more and more, even though I kind of detest Twitter, but I'm using it a little bit more because it's where I can express opinions that I don't want to necessarily make retail opinions about. I played the opening to the movie because somebody had shared it. This was before he passed away, and we were laughing at it because it was like this was you could get into this as a kid. They let you into the theater to see this show as a kid. But Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and it only lasted 2 years, but that was the average for Glenn A. Larson. I think the only things that Glenn Larson had that I think Knight Rider and A-Team were the only ones that really lasted a long time. But back then, back in the 80s, 2 years was okay. You only needed to be around to carry the ratings long enough for Glenn Larson to put another show and sell a crap ton of merchandise. Dude, Buck Rogers sold lunch pails, shirts, toys. Even after the series went off the air, they were still selling that stuff. Much like Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica had like 1 or 2 years. One, I think it was one standard year, and then Battlestar 80, which was horrible. So two total years, and they were selling literally to the mid 80s. They were selling uh um Cylon Vipers and Cylon, Cylon ships and Baystar. They were selling that stuff. So um I um I wouldn't trade the shit that I grew up with for anything. And this is Buck Rogers in 25th Century is one of those reasons why. All right. Don't know if I'm gonna have a co-host tonight. That's been kind of off the bender lately, but hey. All right, so I wanted to get that out the way because yeah, that really struck me right in the sentimentals there. So yeah, R.I.P. Buck Rogers. And let's I know he had, I hate to say it, but he had other stuff that he did, but nothing left the impact of let's see, Gil Gerard. All right. Let's see. He was almost 83. All right, so he had a huge career. I mean, Airport 77, Man on the Swing, Hooch, Buck Rogers, 25th Century. That's his biggest thing. Then didn't do much. That was a movie he did. He did the movie Buck Rogers, Fear to Feed Him. So the last thing he did was Surge of Power, Revenge of the Sequel. The Nice Guys, Boldly Gone. So he did voice work. He did some stuff. Dire Wolf, Psycho Hillbilly Cabin. Oh wow, Psycho Hillbilly Cabin Massacre. Okay, we'll need to do some research on that. That sounds like some shit I need to be watching. Hold on, let me email that because that sounds like a watch party right there. Just the name alone. I don't even care if the movie's horrible. Okay, so we're gonna send that to myself. Air Rage, The Stepdaughter, Future's Mine, Mom, Can I Keep Her? He, like I said, a lot of these are like B movies or type of thing, but you know what? They made a living off of these things. A lot of them were direct to videos, but if you were a star in the 80s and from in the mid 80s to maybe early 2000s, direct to video shit was, you could get a lot of money out of that. You could make a lot of money. You could make a lot of easy money, and you could make a lot of, I mean, it's frequent. I mean, you could do 3 or 4 projects in a year because they were low budget, and you could make a good living off of those. All right, television. He was in Beretta for a little bit. Hawaii Five-0, everybody was on. Obviously, Buck Rogers. Help Wanted, Hear No Evil, played the Dragon, International Emperor. Sidekicks, I remember Sidekicks. I remember that. Nightingales, I remember that. Earthborns, I remember that. He was in Days of Our Life for a little bit. Transformers Robots, he was a voice actor for Transformers. Star Trek, The New Voyages, he played Admiral Sheehan. Let's see, Lost Valentine, Ghost Town, Reptilosaurus. A lot of these are B movies too, but once again, they paid. So rest in peace, Gil Gerard. Man, it's like, nobody lives forever, but fuck, man. Wow. All right, there's Duckman, Duck Rogers, and yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a Smooth out there somewhere. Yeah, no, that is a cartoon. Aaron Looney Tunes, no matter how old, is great. Damn. How you doing, Jose? What's going on? Well, Buck Rogers was the show that I'm referencing was done by the same guy, Glenn A. Larson, who did Battlestar Galactus. That's why he's familiar. But very familiar style, familiar sets, familiar. A lot of the actors and film craft and stuff that were used in these movies or in these shows were rotated around. That's how they did it. Sometimes they would repaint sets, and you'd be like, and we wouldn't, as kids, we wouldn't know the difference. That's how they saved money. Yeah, I love that show, man. I love that show. Very, very tight outfits. If they were wearing any outfits at all, like I said, the girl on the look at this. The one on the right, not Aaron Gray. Aaron Gray's costume was super duper tight and white. Didn't leave much of the imagination. And this was Pamela. I forgot her name. Man, hold on, because she was a big thing back in the day. All right, let's see, I mean, and you had a lot of people who were in other things. Aaron Gray's still alive. Colonel Deering. Oh my goodness. Pamela Hensley. Princess Ardala. She was only in 4 episodes, but man, she was considered a bombshell. She was in Matt Houston. I remember her. She was in Doc Savage. So yeah, she was in a lot of stuff. She's still alive. Yeah, she's still alive. She's got to be. She's got to be up there. But yeah, she was in a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, she would. Let me show you when I mean. Because they did not. The 80s were different though, because you could get away with some skin on TV. I don't know why it was that much difference, but let me show you what she wore. And it wasn't controversial. Nobody said shit. Let's see. Yeah, so this is an idea because she was always trying to seduce Buck Rogers. I remember that. He was always trying to resist her. And but she was always trying to, and every time, she would invite her into somewhere, or she would have to do some kind of negotiation. This is the kind of shit she wore. That's her. And this is more conservative, but she was always trying to that's what you usually saw her with right there, that little whole showgirl thing. So yeah, she was this is 1980s, and this was something, like I said, they marketed this to kids. They said, "Hey, kids, watch this." And we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll watch it." Yeah, boy, Buck Rogers. I think it came out the same year. No, it came out before Battlestar Galactica, because Battlestar Galactica came out in 79. I think they might. You know what? Okay, so Buck Rogers was released in 79, and it was a Glenn A. Larson. So Battlestar Galactica. Oh my goodness, Glenn A. Larson. Actually, wow. Let's see, Glenn A. Larson. Let's see. Battlestar Galactica started in 1978. Battlestar Galactica beat it by a year. Beat it by a year. Its first season. It was only had the one season. Yeah, if you count Battlestar Galactica and Battlestar Galactica 80, they had a total of 34 episodes. And some of the things that had Lauren Green. I mean, man. So Glenn A. Larson, he passed away in 2014. His list of things that he did was as long as me. I mean, he did shit all the way up. In fact, he was he was a producer. He was a writer and producer on both Battle, even the current one that was on the Sci-Fi Channel. So yeah, that guy was part of everybody's childhood. Yep, R.I.P. Yeah, it was a while back. I was sick. You couldn't have been. Well, you might have watched it later, but I was watching it right as it came out. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're talking about I didn't even know if I wanted to touch that. So apparently Warner Brothers is rejecting the $108 billion bid. The hostile takeover, which I pretty much, when we were talking about this before, I thought it was 50-50, but I still, if you had to hold a gun in my head, I was still going to say Netflix, because Netflix's money is money. If they needed to increase their bid, they could go to their investors and do it. Paramount had to go to other means, and a lot of the stockholders and the shareholders were not competent in those means, and so they have decided to stick with the offer that they got from Netflix. The funny thing about it is, a hostile takeover, like I said before, was stupid, because you had everything you needed to. If you thought a hostile takeover was going to work, you would have just made that offer outright. You wouldn't have if you wouldn't have even tried. You shouldn't have sent a letter. What you should have done is, if you're going to make your bid, and if Netflix would outbid you, the next step should have been to just outbid them with all this stuff. But you wrote that letter, and then people who got investors apparently just don't believe that David Ellison, and they had to put so many people together to make up that 108 million amount that the investors were afraid that if any one of those people fell off, they would not be able to seal the deal. So that's what happened. And I am not of the party that thinks Netflix is going to be the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs to the theater. So, yeah. How you doing, Antonio Baker? What's going on? I have 2 Aussies in here. There are more Aussies than anyone else in here besides Americans. Cool. I saw bits and pieces of the show later on. I don't think I was old enough at the time when the show, and I don't know if it should continue with the 80s or just the 70s. Okay, Omega Swiper, I'm just going to skip everything you say tonight. If you're bored, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm sorry I couldn't be more exciting today. Yeah, there was a lot of problems during that production. He had a lot of problems with Dino De Laurentiis in that production. Did I say Sam Wilson? I'm sorry. Sam Jones. Okay, Aaron Gray and Pamela Hendry. Yeah, boy, my goodness. Aaron Gray's still around with us. So is Pamela Hendry. Let's see. I thought Off the Wall came out in 79 or 78. I can't remember because to me, Michael Jackson started with Thriller. 1979. 1979 for Off the Wall. And then obviously, what was next. Silver Spoon, yeah, boy. Joel Gray thinking the silver spoon to yeah, that show lasted for quite a while. I remember he had the train in his house and he would roll through. Yeah, I remember that show. Glenn A. Larson had you forgot the Fall Guy, Automan. Oh, we talked about Automan on this show before. Automan was so cheesy. Automan was so cheesy, but as a kid, it was everything we had. It was I was blown away by it. Now I look back like I'm like, oh my god. But as a 8, 9, 10, dude, Automan was kind of cool. It didn't last long. I mean, Automan lasted like a commercial break, I think. And remember Manimal? Simon McCorkindale? Was that a Glenn Larson too? Yep, it was Glenn A. Larson too. Manimal was boy. It was cheesy. It got 8 episodes. It literally got 8 episodes. It got canceled like immediately. And I think it got canceled in favor of Miami Vice, to be honest with you. Hold on, hold on. Manimal. All right, Manimal is not well regarded by many TV viewers, and the series received negative reviews. It was really bad. It was bad as a kid. Let's see. Manimal was the subject of much sarcastic ribbing of fellow NBC show Late Night with David Letterman, including early 9-minute. Yeah, he got made fun of. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this aired on Friday, and I think it got replaced with Miami Vice, if I'm not correct. Let's see. How you doing, Phil? So I have not seen anything from Doomsday. I don't know if any, and I'm just gonna wait until legitimate shit gets ripped out. I'm not really big on leaks. Yeah, she was Matt Houston's assistant. I remember that show, that big ass buckle. Lee Horsley. That was dude, these shows in the 80s, man. When I look back on the programming list of the 80s, there were so many shows we watched, and none of them lasted that long. I think if you got like 4 years in the 80s, that was epic, dude. That was epic. If you got 4 years in the 80s, it was some epic. That was a lot. That was like 10 years and like dog years, man. Okie dokie. Let's see if I'm going to have a co-host today. Probably not. Probably Brad probably went to live unless he retweeted. If he retweeted it, he's on his way. And no, he has not. So that means Brad's probably asleep. That's fine. Let's see. Yeah, Rock With You, I think was on. I think Rock With You was on Off the Wall. I remember the video for Rock With You because it's just him dancing in front of a light. Yeah, 1979 single. That was on. Yeah, it was on Off the Wall. And that was the first time that I think it's the first appearance on TV with the Jerry curl. Because before he had a big old fro. Oh, definitely. That Buck Rogers, the one we're talking about, was a remake. So yeah, there's definitely room. And when I say remakes, and you know how negative I am about reboots and remakes, when you have something like Buck Rogers, though, things like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon were iconic things before the people who made the movies brought them up. So I think there should be a Flash Gordon and a Buck Rogers for every generation. Oh, look who's here.
Everybody.
So yeah, Buck Rogers was excellent. But yeah, we glossed over the only thing I have to say about the Major is, oh wow, what a fucking surprise that was.
Oh, the Paramount WB rejecting Paramount.
Yeah.
So what were
they rejected the imaginary portion of their offer, which was
so what are we going to get, like another sternly worded letter now?
No, I think the sternly worded letter is what fucked them in the first place. If they maybe, even though I think that the letter just sealed the deal for a lot of people, but some of those guys are being advised to sell their shares until they're like, wait a minute, if any one of these people back out, it plunges that offer down to way below the guaranteed. Netflix is giving you guaranteed money. They have the money. Netflix has the money. And I thought Netflix could have just went in and said, fuck you in your 108. Here's 115. But see, Netflix, they knew. Remember David Zaslav? They knew those guys didn't have that money. So
they got a discount.
Yeah, so they like I said, but there we go. Gil Gerard passed away. I don't know if you knew who he was. I know you have to know who Buck Rogers is, but
yeah,
you were like negative 15 or something when I was watching that show. So but Buck Rogers is iconic. If you guys have not watched some of these 80s shows, they're free to watch. Dude, YouTube is your friend when it comes to things. You can find every episode of Battlestar Galactica on YouTube. You can probably find Glenn A. Larson's entire career on YouTube these days. You damn sure find Buck Rogers on YouTube. But once you go into Buck Rogers, there's a lot of other things you can jump into when it comes to Buck Rogers. As far as, like I said, he existed 30, 40 years prior to Gil Gerard ever taking him on. It's just that's where I found out about Buck Rogers. 1980 is the first time I saw two iconic Buster Crabbe roles that had been around for decades, even before my dad was alive. Those kind of things, because those are the kind of remakes you should make. When you have something that's been around that long and the generation in the world changes, those are the kind of remakes I think you can make and you can get away with it. When you're talking about, let's remake something from 1980, no. Because there wasn't anything about Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon that defined it as far as like Cold War movies or anything like that. Even though they took place during World Wars in some cases, that wasn't the premise of it. You could do Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon today, and you could do it. Give me Denis Villeneuve doing Buck Rogers. I'll take it. I'll take it in a heartbeat. Give me a Spielberg Flash Gordon. I'll take it. And I will still love the 1980s, but man, I would love for a new generation to have their own Buck Rogers and their own Flash Gordon, man. So rest in peace, Gil. All right. The other thing I had, what
I was gonna mention, did you also kind of see the now I don't think it's like leaked publicly yet, or it's been pulled down.
If it's a Doomsday thing, I'm avoiding it. I don't want to see any of it until I see the actual.
Well, it's not like, I mean, you can't pull it up on Twitter or anything right now, but apparently it's like, it's more or less confirmed that Captain America and Iron Man are going to be back in it. Via the leak trailer.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's like saying that I'm gonna go to sleep tonight and get up. that's a given. Those are guys. Assume that everyone that you're thinking of is going to be in this movie. Assume, and even the people that are lying right now and saying, "Oh, I haven't been contacted by anybody. Oh, I'm not going to be in that movie. That part of my life. Get the fuck out. And I'm okay with you lying. I understand, Pam K. Jensen. I understand, Halle Berry. I understand. And you can't come out and say, yeah, it's me. You can't say that. And you know what? It'll be more fun if your names aren't on those chairs and bam.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to replicate No Way Home with Andrew.
I think they could blow. I think.
Oh, the hell they could.
As far as them lying goes, or as far as their impact. No, this will blow that away.
The hell it will.
Crush that. Yes, this will crush
not even close.
It won't crush it for you, but for everyone else,
it's not even comparable.
You understand what you're saying?
Yeah, I do. And it's like that was lightning in a bottle. That was lightning in a bottle. There's no way they can replicate that.
They don't need to replicate. Well, you're talking about replicating something within Spider-Man. You have to realize that the MCU and the Fox world universe is so much bigger than that and covers so much ground and time that those people that have built this it's going to have a way bigger impact across the board. It's not even going to be close. For me, and maybe for you, it won't. But I guarantee you, for the majority of the MCU heads, that is going to pale in comparison to
not even. No, not even. I highly push back on that. I mean, No Way Home.
You're doing
No Way Home on its own did nearly $2 billion, and you had that whole run up.
But Avengers movies have made more than those.
This is not going to do Infinity War. It's going to do very well, but I don't see it replicating Infinity War and Endgame numbers.
You're not going to do $2 billion, but it'll beat Spider-Man No Way Home. It'll beat Spider-Man No Way Home.
That I think also.
I'll make that bet right now. I think it blows past Spider-Man No Way Home.
I'll take you on that bet right now.
Okay. I think you're crazy for even saying that way, but
I will take that bet too.
I think fanboy Brad.
I'll take that bet tonight. I'll take that bet tonight. I'm going to be buying the Sci-Fi Center.
Fanboy Brad needs to have a visit from Math Brad, the Brad of Math Future, because you're out of your mind.
In the door. That's what I'm doing.
Avengers is the standard of the MCU money making. That's just I don't agree with it. I don't even think they're better than Spider-Man movies, but I think we're fooling ourselves if we try to deny the impact of those people and those characters and those actors. And I prefer the Spider-Man movie or No Way Home. There's no way. I'm not going to lie to myself and say that when you pull those characters out of the asses that they're going to pull them out of for Doomsday and Secret Wars, that those people aren't going to go crazier.
Because I think wait a minute. I think we're kind of having two conversations here because I'm talking about replicating like the whole thing, like Andrew bullshitting all the way up to
the lying. No, because no one believes anybody.
Okay, that
nobody believes him after that.
Okay, let me walk that back because I think we were having like two different conversations there. It's like
but as far as like say when we were sitting there watching Andrew Garfield come through and pull off his mask, for me nothing's ever going to replace that, even though we all knew it. But I think what we're about to see as far as the reveals that come is going to.
And that's what I'm getting at with that, because it's like, I mean, that was how much, I mean, we all remember like how phenomenal that marketing was. It's like, and he was bullshitting us, and we all knew he was bullshitting us. We knew he was lying.
Well, the trailer, that half-ass trailer was the deal maker for me.
And he knew that we knew he was bullshitting us.
When you have a trailer
when it's like Spidey's here, like in the villains here and here,
giant void in the middle where these guys are supposed to be,
or like Tom here, and they got this huge space on the other side. Yeah.
And then they're leaking shit.
Well, it's like all of Tobey and Andrew's villains are going to be in this movie, but they're totally not going to be in it. Yeah,
we're talking about Tom Holland's junk or whatever on shows, and we're like,
River Campion's in
it. It became a joke.
Okay. So let me clarify that because I think William and I we were like kind of having like two different conversations. Okay, that's what I was getting at when I said like replicating the whole thing about like Andrew having
Yeah,
to
the
lie.
lie. You will never. That's a one-time thing. You'll never, because of that, you'll never be able. Nobody's going to believe
And that's
anybody.
why that's why you won't replicate it, because we already went down that road
Yeah.
with Andrew, and they're
But
probably going to have him. He's probably going to be, in that same position again with this, where he's saying it's like, oh, I'm totally not in Secret Wars Endgame. It's like, the
I
heck?
really don't think he is.
You don't think so?
I don't. I think. I really think Sony wants to use them again in a singular movie, but I could be told, I don't have any inside, but I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't there. But like Halle Berry and all these other ones, they're in Family they're going to be there, man. And it's going to be kind of cool because Marvel's done this right. They give you a goodbye.
It's gonna be like, I mean, imagine them trying to swear up and down like, no, we're totally not pulling an Andrew Garfield.
I'm not believing anybody. I'm not. And if they're still alive, if you're still on this planet Earth and you have been a part of the Foxverse of the MCU from 2000 or whenever on, then I'm expecting to see you, and then I'll have to do a reverse inventory of who wasn't there. It's going to be who wasn't in this movie, not who was in this movie. But Captain America and Steve Rogers and Iron Man, of course they're going to be in there.
Again, that's like, because, and if we weren't buying it when Andrew was saying it, how much more are we not going to be buying it when the Xmen cast and the Fantastic Four cast and all these? Yeah, okay. So I think we need to, like, because I was making
as far
one
as like
point.
the impact goes, people are going to be, dude, grown men are going to be peeing in their pants and crying when they see certain characters come back.
But
grown,
I think I was making one point when.
I get what you said. The lie, us believing in the lie, in the orchestration of that lie. No, that was a one-time gig. I think this is going to be true for the entirety of Secret Wars. I think a lot of these battles are going to take place that are not in the continuity, or when the continuity is not in existence. Because remember, the whole point of this is to create a sacred timeline that is one universe that prunes all this. And I still, one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I love Loki. I love seasons 1 and season 2 of Loki. And I think people are forgetting what Loki means to all this. So I can't wait to see them, but I think we're going to see a pruning of a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are going to die.
Is there anybody for like Sony, Fox, previous MCUs? Would there be anybody who you would take at face value if they denied they were in either one of these movies?
I think somebody told me Anna Paquin had health issues.
Yeah, I could see that, and
that's the only, if they are not alive, or they have health issues, or they're like physically can't do it, and like there are some actors that are, you physically can't do it anymore. Yeah, and they might have. Anna Paquin would be the only one, because I think she's been having health issues. But you know what? I wouldn't.
Like, is Ian McKellen confirmed to be in it or not? Because he's like, he's like.
I thought he was on one of the chairs.
Yeah. I need to look at that again. He's like close to 90, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's still doing shit. So, and this is already done. Most of this is already done.
Well, the reason I mentioned that, because I remember there was at one point, it was pre Days of Future Past, where he was like 2012, something like that, where like I read like a report saying like Ian McKellen confirms, and again, this is another reason why you should never.
This motherfucker is.
You should never.
No, he's only 86. Hey, he's a spring too. Ridley Scott's doing. He's a baby.
But again, this should tell you, like, when people, when actors swear they're never ever going to reprise the roles, like how you don't take that as gospel. Again, this is pre Days of Future Past, or I'd read an interview where McKellen had said and it was phrased like, Ian McKellen confirms he will not return as Magneto, citing his age as a barrier. Well, here you go.
Oh, okay. Well, no, he's in. He's actually guaranteed. He's on his page in Avengers Doomsday. Yeah, he is playing Magneto, so he's in there. So yeah, all these, and like I said, listen, I'm not the biggest fan of everything that Fox and Marvel has done over the last 25 years, but I'm a fan of a lot of it.
So by the time this comes out, McKellen's going to, or what, is he in both of them or just one?
He's only guaranteed in one, but that might mean because the story gets written out.
Okay, good. So by the time,
he might be. Remember, they haven't released anything for Secret Wars yet.
So by the time it's out, though, he's going to be at least 87.
But they're probably filming a lot of this at the same time. I mean, some of these guys, you need to do it all at once. But I think it's kind of cool that if you stuck with Marvel from Fox all the way till now, you continue to get payoffs. You continue to value your customers' time. What you may not agree with everything that comes out of the MCU or comes out of Fox or comes out of Marvel, comes out of Sony, but the one thing that they have not done is they have not devalued your time. They have not wasted your time. They have allowed you, they have everything that they started, for better or for worse, everything that they started had a beginning, middle, of the end. And that has been their biggest advantage over the MCU is trust. I trust the MCU brand. Not only do I trust the MCU brand, I trust the things that were not even part of the MCU brand to be followed up. You're gonna get follow-ups and ends and goodbyes to fucking Sony shit and Fox stuff that's been around for 20-something years. So
sorry.
Don't die.
Sorry, my allergies have been just I mean, it's been getting cold here these last few days. Also, all the crap the kids bring to the school. It's like clearly that always catches up with me. So that kind of a runny nose, a little tickle in my throat these last few days. But yeah, one of I was going to ask, and again, let me walk that back what I was saying earlier, because I think I was kind of coming off a little bit too snarky there. But I think it was because William and I was making one point, he was interpreting it another way, and so about the whole Garfield.
Yeah. You're saying that that lie will that we would be able to beat the lie that they told and people fell for. No, that's that. No, we're not. But yeah, what I was saying is that the impact. So imagine when we saw the cameos of the people that we knew all year that were coming out, and how it just was. I've never felt that way again in a theater. Every feeling is different, but I think that the emotional roller coaster that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be dwarfed by the emotional road, because there's going to be more characters and there's going to be more ties. When it came to in that scene, when you see Andrew Garfield, my crowd just
but the earth shook with like the applause.
Yeah. That wasn't even the biggest scene that got the biggest applause, though. It was when Andrew Garfield saves Zendaya or Mary Jane, and that tells you everybody's saying, nobody watched those movies. Fuck you. Everybody watched those movies. Everybody watched those movies.
Cheered. I mean, they weren't cheering because just because of a
just because he saved her.
Saved. This was they realized like what
that
this
was a full circle moment
for. Yeah.
And when he's crying, remember he's crying? She's like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah," because he had just finished explaining to Peter, "My world went dark when this happened." And to me, fuck everybody else. For those of you knuckle draggers, I'm sorry that didn't get the Martha moment. That to me was a full circle moment that was on the level of that, because the whole reason his world changed was because he was not able to save her. And the whole reason Batman became who he was, because as a helpless 9-10-year-old, he could not save his Martha. So now he was in a position, full circle, to save Martha. When he says Martha's not going to die tonight, he's saying something he could not have said as 9-year-old Bruce. Yeah. And what he was about to do, when he was about to kill Superman, he was about to start a cycle that created him. He was about to create another orphan. Martha was going to die and an orphan was going to be created. And there's so many people that make fun of that. And I just wish I had Darth Vader's power for just a little bit. I don't want to choke you to death. I just want you. Remember how Admiral Ozzel was like this before Darth Vader would kill him when he was getting mad? They start doing this stuff and Vader doesn't choke them, but he gives them that little tingle that, hey, motherfucker. Maybe around.
Maybe we could be walking back a little bit, just gonna do more like these aren't the droids you're looking for with it.
It is like, Martha, it's funny. Their mother's name was the same.
This is the Martha you're looking for.
Like when he was talking to the director from Rogue One, don't be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I don't want to choke you, but I just want to make you feel my hands around your throat, because I hate that. I got that moment immediately.
Me
and
too.
I think that people, I think that just as easily as you got the Andrew Garfield moment, you should have been able to get that. But I guess we just weren't ready then. But
we're a couple of months away from year 10, so I'm sure that it will remain hotly debated. Will definitely be a hot button issue. But yeah, again, let me apologize.
Yes, we got it. I know. You don't have to apologize. I understood what you were saying. I understood what you were saying, but it's the lie.
The point I was leading into that is as far as like the Fox and Sony cast returns, and I bring this up because there was apparently some talk about them appearing in Deadpool Wolverine. Could you foresee any of the 2015 Fantastic Four cast returning for this? Because apparently
yeah. 100%.
Because again, apparently they there was talk about them appearing in The Void in Deadpool Wolverine at one point for the lead up to that. So And that's
They
I
are
kind of
they are a part of the Marvel universe.
I almost
Part of
and
the
they
Fantastic
well
Four.
they even showed outtakes from them in the end credits of the. I kind of almost wish they did that because that would be a very Deadpool thing to do.
I mean, you have not Chris Evans, but you're going to see them all. This movie is going to make a lot of money. This is going to be one of those outliers because right now a lot of people are streaming and everything else, and movies aren't making as much. I think Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War are going to be those kind of movies that everybody comes out to see, and they're going to make a lot of money, and they're going to be fun to see. So,
They're putting
X-Men
it
1,
out
2, 3.
they're putting it out for Christmas next year too, so that's kind of a
Yeah. Even though, man, I wish they were doing it in May, but then Spider-Man comes out when? Spider-Man.
That's in July.
That's in July, so yeah, that's going to be. I wish
Because
they were doing
No
that
Way
in May.
Home that was Christmas of 21, so that's
and the other Spider-Man movie was they released them all over the place.
It's I mean it's a little bit atypical for DC or Marvel. Usually the latest they'll put something out in the year is sometime in November, so this is a little bit out of the ordinary for them.
X-Men 2 and 3 I was not a fan of. X-Men 1, it doesn't age as well as some of the other movies that they've done, but once again, I tend to overlook that because X-Men, the first X-Men movie is I will say it to this day, is the most important comic book movie ever made. Is in regards to the world we live in now with these ensemble world built films, X-Men 2000 was the most important movie comic book ever made.
It's really interesting because we've done a watch party for it. You go back and watch it now, it's like how can I put this? It's like because I do still really like it, and I do definitely agree. I was definitely very much a pillar for like doing team movies. It certainly was very much a pillar for like Marvel movies. But yeah, but you look back on it now, it's like it was enormous for its time, but it's it's very small scale by what you
yeah, it's nowhere near, but it showed everybody who's working on these movies now, Feige included, all these people had their hands in it. Yep, all these people were looking at this, and not just the Marvel properties. DC was looking at this. Now it would take DC later on because by the time X-Men came out, they didn't really have the momentum other than one hero at a time, Batman, and that was it. But it would take them a while, and even then, even though X-Men set the stage, even a lot of other people they wanted to do this, but they took a couple of X-Men movies. It took a couple of X-Men movies to get to the point, and then it took that intersection of the X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies to see the kind of scope that you could do with these movies. And a lot of those people that were working in Fox and Sony got carried over into to what Disney Studios and MCU and Marvel Studios were created. So that X-Men 1, not the greatest superhero. I never claimed that, but its importance is I can't think of a more important comic book movie in regards to getting to the shared universe. And that includes DC, by the way.
Well, it's because I kind of liken it too. I mean, this kind of dawned on me. I'm sure everybody here has heard me sing the praises of John Wick, left and right. But I remember like when the third one came out, and certainly when the fourth one came out, I remember watching those and thinking, like, looking back on the original, and the original I love. The original is, that's another one where it's like, as far as like, for action movies, it's a real turning point.
I'm going to use the restroom. I'm going to leave this to you real quick, and I'm going to come back and we're going to jump in X-Men. So go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay. But I remember like when the third one, when Parabellum came out, and then of course this, thought returned to me with the fourth John Wick is. Sorry guys, getting a little bit raspy. I look back on the first one, which the first one is phenomenal. It's a trendsetter. It's watershed moment in action movies, but you look back on it, it's like it really made me realize like what a modest beginning the first one was, for John Wick. And then again, how it was the kind of thing where it's like they had to fight such an uphill battle for it. And then it was proved so influential. It's like now everybody wants their own John Wick. And so I think you could kind of make a similar sort of, I think X-Men runs parallel to that. One thing about the original X-Men is that, it looks, for its time, it was, such a quantum leap forward for superhero movies, and certainly for doing I think it was our first team movie, because I don't know if we can count I don't think we can count the unreleased Corman Fantastic Four. But then you see how much like the subsequent X-Men movies and like every team movie from Avengers, Zack Snyder's Justice League, everything is how much it's built on the shoulders of that, and again how modest the beginning that trend setting event was. So it's like I think it's like I'd like it a little bit to like how what the first John Wick, the influence that had. yeah. But yeah, that's just no. Yeah, I just had a cough for these last few days. Yeah, I was telling them when you stepped away is like the look when it got around like 3 and 4 with John Wick.
Oh, you brought that up. That's hilarious. Fucking Twitch and the bots.
Yeah, but I'm as big a fan as clearly everybody's on the show is as big a fan of John Wick as you can meet. But 3 and 4 like made me realize look back on 1, which is a trendsetter, is a pillar in action movies, for modern times. But it also made me realize how modest of a beginning that was. And now it's like there was like this low budget like indie guerrilla. Watch Wick is Pain. The documentary, it shows like how much hell they had to go through just to get that across the finish line. And now 11 years later, it's like everyone wants their own John Wick. And so I think X-Men, look back on the original, it's like it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, yeah, it was such a trendsetter. It set the template for the idea of like you could do team movies, and that's where you get Avengers and Zack Snyder's Justice League and Fantastic Four, and what we're going to see with Doomsday.
But that's all that traces its lineage all back to 2000.
But again, watching the original, it makes you also, it puts it in perspective where you realize like how modest the beginning of that really was. Even it felt enormous for its time, but because so much has been built on the shoulders of it now, it's like it's not that it dates it in a bad way, but it just makes you realize
which
like how
you were talking about. You're talking about John Wick. Or talking about
X-Men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you could say this of both of them, where it's like the beginning was so humble and was so modest and was so again almost an uphill battle, and you see what's been done on the shoulders for them since then. You realize just how like how small a beginning it was, but how big it felt. It's kind of the way to put it with both of them.
All right, so giant size X-Men number 1. Hold on for a second. Let me get my information straight. Hold on, you broke up here. Your sound's messed up, right? Hold on for a second. Yeah, you're real bad. Hold on. Let's see release date. I'm just trying to. All right. Giant size X-Men number 1. I have not had a chance to cover this for a while, even albeit maybe through like negligence or just oversight. But we're almost done with the year 2025, so I have not celebrated the 50th anniversary of the release of this book, and this is just like we said. Just like we said with X-Men, when it comes to the importance of that movie and what it meant to movie going as far as ensemble cast, this is probably one of the most important comics books ever printed. And the reason why is it set the stage for the type of storytelling that would pretty much dominate the 80s. And this is in 1975. Okay. April was its cover date's release. April 1975, Deadly Genesis. X-Men had been canceled. I don't think a lot of people realize, because of the popularity of X-Men would live through the 80s and the 90s, that X-Men was canceled. But back in this era, and back in the 60s as well, when a comic book stopped when a comic book stopped printing first run stories, it ended up getting turned into something else, or anthology stories like Tales. I mean, they would switch out. They would keep the line number going, but they would switch out comic. They did it all the time. Certain titles. I think Iron Man transformed over to I think Tales of Suspense, and Journey into Mystery, Thor, things like that, and then they would get their own lineage. What happened with X-Men from issue 67, it went into reprints. From 67 to issue 94, X-Men went into reprints, and it was just a reprinted title. It wasn't until 1975 that they decided to blow up the entire comic and replace most of all of the original X-Men, with the exception of Cyclops, with characters that today we just take for granted as iconic. I mean, the first appearance of Storm, the first appearance of Nightcrawler, the first appearance of John Proudstar, who would get killed like literally in the next issue, the first appearance of Colossus, the second ever appearance, I believe, of Wolverine. Wolverine, obviously, had his 1974. He appeared the previous year in Hulk 181, 182, and that was obviously the Battle of Wendigo. That was a legendary appearance right there. And the next time you see him is in this issue right here, and that's the first time that you see that type of cowl that Wolverine would make him famous, even if it's done in different colors later on. It's the first time. This was probably the most representative as far as culturally and racially as any comic was out at the time. You had a Russian, you had a German, you had a Native American, you had a Canadian, and at this point, he is established as Canadian because he's when Professor X comes to visit him, he visits Department H. By the way, that's Department H's first appearance, and he cuts the guy's tie off when he's trying to stop him. And then you had Cyclops. So what they did is they changed the entire dynamic of the book. And a couple of issues later, all the old X-Men that you see at the top there, they would leave, but they would come back over the next 10 years into varying degrees. They wouldn't leave forever, but for the most part. And then this book is what changed a lot of things. And then Chris Claremont would come on right after here, and John Byrne. This broke it open. And obviously in the story, the original X-Men have been captured by Krakoa, the Mutant Island, and Professor X has to go get a couple people that he's already had cataloged through Cerebro, and he has them rescue them. Obviously, and Sunfire is also in here too. You can't really see him in the picture, but he's in there. This would be retconned almost 25 years later, when Gabriel Summers, the other Summers kid that nobody knew about, who was also a part of this mission, who would become Vulcan. He was left behind. They thought he was dead, and he was left behind. He would become a super powerful mutant afterwards. But this was a very important comic. I think this group of X-Men, and then going forward, changed how team comics were written, because you couldn't be a certain way anymore. They weren't afraid to kill a member either. Literally, Proudstar, Thunder, I forgot his name in here, but he's killed in the second episode, or second issue. He's gone. So they weren't afraid to kill. This would lead directly into the Byrne era, the John Byrne era. That would lead all the way through the early 80s. This would be where Wolverine would be established, and then 8 years later, Wolverine has his own solo title. And this whole thing, Deadly Genesis, changed storytelling as far as the X-Men goes. It would be about another 4 or 5 years before, but by 1979, 1980, X-Men would start to seep in and be the top-selling comic for most of that decade, and that would bleed over to the Jim Lee era, because the entirety of the 80s was Chris Claremont. With the entirety of the only other run I can remember that was that long was Peter David's run on the Hulk. that lasted through the mid 80s all the way up to the mid 90s. But an entire decade, this set up for X-Men to dominate comic book stores. And X-Men was so dominant during that era that you had people changing the names, comic books changing the names of their titles, like the All-Stars would become the Young All-Stars and things like that, so that they could be near the X-Men, because that's how it worked back then. Is if when you came in to pick up the most popular comic, you invariably would look at the comic sitting next to it, and that would help boost that comic sales. So yeah, there was all kinds of stuff that went on once X-Men, but this was it. This was the big one. This was the first appearance of Colossus, first appearance of Nightcrawler, first appearance of Storm, first appearance of Krakoa. Is your camera okay? Is that blinking out? Or is your blinking out, or is that blinking out because you're the camera?
I just shut off for me because I'm stepping back and forth a couple times.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know if it was a mess up, but yeah, Giant Size X-Men was huge. I used to own a copy of it, but I sold it. But oh well. All right, let's see. Let's do the heavy like blue. All right, let's see. Let me get down to some of the comments about this one. Who is next to Nightcrawler? That is James Proudstar. Yeah, that is. All right, Giant Size X-Men is a special issue of X-Men comic book series published. I'm reading from Wikipedia because I'm lazy. Published by Marvel Comics in 1985. It was written by Lynn Wein, who's a legend, and illustrated by David Cockrum, rest in peace. Chris Claremont could contribute to the plot. So he actually got the plot going. So he was a part even here. Having conceived the idea of Polaris using her powers to propel Krakoa into space, but went uncredited. Though not a regular issue, it contained the first new X-Men story in 5 years called Second Genesis. Let's see. The issue serves as a link between the original X-Men and the new team. Chronologically, it is placed after X-Men 66, which is the issue that got canceled, and before X-Men 94, which was the first issue that came back. The 68-page book was published in May of 1975, cover date distributed to newsstands in February of that year. The issue has been cited as a start point of the Bronze Age of comics and is notable for expanding the membership of the X-Men from beyond the white American cast, which that's what I meant by the most diverse and most representative cast, because all the original X-Men were all white. But when Stan Lee was putting out X-Men, there was, obviously we're going to have editorial issues with putting this type of cast, but what a difference 12 years makes, huh? Beyond a white American cast to one of a more international flavor in an attempt to attract more readers from outside the U.S., even if some characters were portrayed as somewhat stereotypically. Yeah, they were, but you know what? It was the 70s. The X-Men stopped producing new stories after issue 66 in March 1970. From December 1970 to April 1975, X-Men reprinted many of the older X-Men issues, such as issues 67 and 93. Following the May publication of Giant Size X-Men #1, Marvel began publishing new issues of X-Men with 94 in August of 1975. The comic also collects reprints from X-Men 43, 47, and 57. So it's not all completely. It was worked on by Lynn Wein, Dave Cochran, Gil Kane, John Costanza, and Glynis Wynn, which is, I think, Lynn Wynn's not mother, but wife at the time. So really, really, really. See, I don't even accredit it to the Bronze Age, beginning of the Bronze Age, or of comic. But yeah, Thunderbird is he would be killed literally. He would be killed literally in the very first issue that came out. That wasn't a Giant Size X-Men #5. So that's who's standing next to. Let's see. Well, yeah. The same people who say Star Trek is woke, and Star Trek was woke from episode 1. Star Trek was woke from episode 1, and Star Trek actually did what X-Men's doing here. Star Trek did it in the 60s. Chekhov was your Russian, Uhura was your Black African American. Hell, Kirk is your Canadian technically, but yeah. They were doing it before, but so I hate that term. I think people just use woke. I think there are sinister terms under the usage of the word woke. I think the word woke in DEI allows people to say that, hide behind those words and not say sometimes what they really want to say, things that would get them fired or ostracized, you know. So who was Russian? Colossus. Colossus and his sister Magic. By the way, another first appearance. Magic, Ilana, his sister, makes her first appearance in this comic book. She's not who you would come to know her to be, but his powers get exposed, or he turns into Colossus for the very first time when a tractor, one of those solar reaper things, is headed out of control, and his sister is in the way, and he jumps in front of it and turns into Colossus and destroys the tractor. And that's when Professor X comes and appears to him. Yes, Colossus is the Russian. Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler, is the German. Technically, Storm was born in New York. Storm is an American, but she was raised in Africa. But she's an American. She was born here in New York City, and something happened at the embassy that her father was serving at, and that's what killed her parents, and she was taken back to that. So yeah, and they tell you that story all in it. They give you the origin stories. Obviously, Wolverine's Canada. Cyclops was American, but they went from an all-white American lineup to one of the more diverse ones that was in comics at the time. And keep in mind, this is a 7. John discovered that he had superior strength and endurance ability that follows him to lift massive amounts of weight and run great. Yeah, and he had a brother. He had a brother too, because he was killed, and his brother took on the mantle. Let's see. And I think they brought him back to life, but he had a brother that served along X-Force. His brother was an X-Force. So yeah, he was born as a Apache name. But yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, some of these things that, are, I mean, just, X-Men was huge for the industry. X-Men was a best-selling title. If it wasn't X-Men, it was Batman. But for the most part, X-Men would be the best-selling comic from like maybe 1980 all the way up until maybe the early 90s, and then Spawn and other things would come out. But X-Men held its own and established what kind of stories you could tell. A lot of the grittier adult stories or young adult stories were being told in X-Men, while a lot of comics were holding back. And guys like Chris Claremont and Frank Miller, this was their signal to other writers and the industry that it didn't have to be kiddie. You had to pay a little bit more respect to your readers, that they could follow more complex stories. And Frank Miller doing it with Daredevil and with Wolverine in 1982, they basically made it okay, because when we were kids, comic books were supposed to be something that you collected as a kid and you were eventually supposed to grow out of. But when X-Men, and Daredevil and Dark Knight, all these things were coming around, you never left comics, because comics were growing with you. So there you go. One of the most important comics ever printed, Giant Size X-Men #1. The ramifications are still being felt to this day. Okay. Let's see. I just want the new X-Men movies to feel like, get the fuck out of here. Why did I even bring that up? To feel like X-Men 97. I guess, I'm never going to be won over. I think X-Men 97 is better than X-Men 92. I'm the same reasons I'm not the biggest fan of the concept of that in the animated series. Not the work, not the people who worked on it, but the concept of it is the same reason I find X-Men 92, even though I watched the whole series, it hurt my eyes. It hurt my eyes and my soul. I went from the Claremont era, the Mutant Massacre, Follow the Mutants, and then this, and like I said, they weren't making it for me. They were making it for kids. And I just have a philosophical difference that I never want to see. I never, ever want to see modern filmmaking reflect early 90s cartoon. There was a time and a place for that, and it fit, and that's fine. But I don't think you can make a modern filmmaking movie using aspects that came from that. I just don't believe you can. The theme song from that. I associate that with softcore. I consider that stuff softcore because they couldn't do the real core stuff. You got taken off TV. If you would have given kids the Batman that I as a kid had in the late '80s, if you'd have put that in front of kids, in front of Fox TV or whatever for kids, you'd have had parents trying to burn down the station. So whatever. That's just how I feel. I still think it's a poor example, Forth. There are better examples of what you're asking for. It's called the comic book. The comic book is a better example of what has been successful in modern movie making. What will be successful, in my opinion, in 2028, 2029, 2030, when we finally do get an X-Men movie. The comics were a better benchmark and a better blueprint than what they were doing in those cartoons.
No, by the way, Hugh Jackman, I don't know if you saw that one interview soundbite he gave where he didn't state outright he was in Doomsday or Secret Wars, but he said, yeah, now that I came back in Deadpool Wolverine, the way he phrased it was something like, Logan felt like when I did it, that felt like a retirement. And now that I'm Deadpool Wolverine, that doesn't feel like a retire. That feels like coming out of retirement. So he's basically saying, okay, you're going to see more of me with Wolverine.
Was there any doubt? I mean,
well, but see, I kind of like that goes back to what I was saying about the whole thing about you're not going to replicate Andrew bullshitting around being in No Way Home. So it's like he's just cutting out the middleman, saying it's like, yeah, you're totally going to see more of me.
Yeah, and he's going to get paid. You're only going to see him in 2 movies. I think you might see him in one of the 2. But I think he's going to go away. I think he's going to get either pruned or killed. I think all these characters are going to get pruned or killed. Or they're going to do just like in Deadpool and Wolverine, where they're fighting the void, and then that's their last stand, and then whoever makes it over into the consolidated universe, which is cool. But yeah, there's no.
But that goes back to my question. It's like, is there anybody offhand again, other than you mentioned Anna Paquin, but anybody who you would like take at face value, saying they're definitely not returning?
No. I would laugh. I would understand. I understand you have to say this, but until I don't see you in that movie, you're in that movie. You're in that movie. You're actors. This is the top. Some of these guys, these are career-defining roles. Okay, Scarlett Johansson. I'm sorry, I do have one. Scarlett Johansson, because she doesn't have a real good. Yeah, she doesn't have a good relationship.
Well, but even that could be,
yeah, money do though. Check can solve a lot of other things. But that would be the only one who I would even consider being like, maybe you won't be there because.
Drogo's got a good one with Elliot Page return, and there are logistical reasons for like why they're.
I could see her. She could still listen. I invented this thing. Listen, guys, I don't get enough credit for my inventions. I invented the remote control. I invented the mouse. I invented all of these things that help you guys do life. But you know what I also invented that I don't get enough credit for? Makeup chair and wardrobe.
Yeah. And
you could put Elliot Page in whatever. She's dude, I'm fucking up the pronouns. Man, if they ever put like a dog collar around my neck where I didn't get the pronouns right, I'm probably gonna get electrocuted because it's a task for me. Sorry, guys.
See, the way I talk, the way I address people, I would just in either context, I just use the shorthand L. I just say, oh, hey, L.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. And I'm not doing this to dismiss somebody as what they want to be. It's called. It's habit forming to me. It's gonna take a while. But yeah, Elliot Page, with no problem at all. If that's the case,
Well, these days, I mean, it's not even like not even so much makeup. They just put the dots on your face, and like just.
Yeah, you can do. You don't even have to hear me. You're right, 100%.
Which that's also interesting because Jim, we had the re-release or the ongoing re-release, 25-year release of The Grinch, and there's been interviews circulating with that, or they're reminiscing on that. Jim Carrey talked about what a nightmare.
Oh, yeah, you got Taylor Momsen, who does not look like she did in that movie.
She was no more than 2, even though she was clearly 10.
Yeah, she is grown and she's very provocative now. David, I saw her with them,
but he again talked about the makeup, and he had some some meltdowns, which I mean, hard to blame him with that makeup. Yeah. But he talked about, I'd come out today because next it's like now again they can put the dots in your face, just like computerize it.
Yeah, you don't even have to put the contacts on anymore.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine feels like a movie doesn't count. It technically doesn't. You're not wrong. It technically doesn't. It takes place in a place that doesn't count. You technically doesn't. Well, I was amused. So yeah, I can't argue with you there. Let's see. What else return? Cyclops has been done dirty in live action. He should be treated the same way. No. I don't think he was given the best material to do. I think James Marsden would do it, but I wouldn't put him. I don't think you should be treating Cyclops like Captain America. Captain America is literally behaves like an icon.
Did I tell you about when Ashley and I when we saw Days of Future Past and that came out? I'd seen it before she had, so this is my second time seeing it.
Definitely.
But she it gets to the end when like they reset the timeline, and then Cyclops shows up, and no exaggeration, like her response right next to me, he comes up and she goes like like that. So see, I'm looking forward very much to Cyclops, seeing him in this, and I really hope we'll like see fully accurate like comic book costumes, not just the visor, but just like the whole.
You're not though. That would be point. Oh, okay, eventually, yeah, going forward. But are you talking about in this movie, this next coming movie?
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna. You're gonna see the same cheesy shit because that's the point. You don't want to update them. You want to, you want to see the same cheesy shit that you saw them in. I mean, otherwise, you want to be recognizable.
We got the yellow spandex finally in First Class. So
depends on what extra you might have them all coming through, because I think you're going to have two different Magnetos in there. So
yeah, they're not technically two different Magnetos. They're two different time periods.
Same guys, two different time periods. Because Michael Fassbender is that Magneto. I think, all due respect to Sir Ian McKellen, I adore your work, man. This is not a knock. I think Michael Fassbender had better material to work with and better lines to work with, and I think he is a better Magneto because of that. His some of the things he says before he's fucking killing people, and he's like convincing you. You're like, damn, I'm looking at man, you're a fucking horrible motherfucker. You're about to question. Then he does this whole soliloquy. I'm like, you know what? You just convinced me that they need to die. Go ahead and kill him, Max. So yeah, I like that. And Michael Fassbender can convince me of anything. He's just
my favorite fucker, dude. Well, you talked about like 12 Years a Slave. Like,
yeah, I wanted to fucking kill that motherfucker.
And you had to remind yourself, it's like he's not.
I had to think of Magneto. I had to think of another horrible character to get the horrible character that I was watching out of my head. I had to think of David in the sleazy shit he did in Covenant and Aliens, just to get that guy out of my head. I wanted. Wow! I thought Joel Edgerford's character was just going to take the whip and choke him to death. I was like, "Get him! Don't! You're just letting this happen." And then my favorite part of it is that 12 Years a Slave was at the end, where the guy from the north comes and gets him. He has a paper and he brings a marshal with him, and there's nothing Michael Fassbender's character can do. He's just cussing out, "I'm going to get you back, and it's going to be a lashing." And then the guys tell me, "Get the fuck back on your farm," and he never sees him again. But yeah, Michael Fassbender for that character really should have.
My favorite, I think my favorite moment with him in his tenure as Magneto is it's at the end of First Class when he takes the coin, like Xavier has like Kevin Bacon like mentally frozen, and because he's flipping like the situation that he was put in the concentration camp at the beginning of the movie, he's flipping on Kevin Bacon. So he takes the coin and he passes it through his skull.
Yeah,
because that's big. Like that's insult to injury in like the worst way.
Yeah, he was vicious, but he could justify. I mean, he justifies his viciousness because of what was happening to him. I really love it. All right, guys, we're at an hour and 20 minutes. I don't have anything left. I think we covered. There was only two main things I want to cover. I covered a little bit of the merger, but it's getting predictable now, guys, and everybody who thinks that there's going to be just all these problems and stuff. Listen. David Zaslav and his investors, you didn't see. Did you see them panic when the man child said, "Oh, I'm going to come back and I'm going to get some more money and I'm going to write you a nasty letter"? Did you see any like? It's like the dog. Like you have a Rottweiler, and you got like a cat or a puppy that's like really just gnawing and barking at the Rottweiler while he's laying there. and the Rottweiler's like, is this real? Is this serious? Is this you think you can, you know? And if the Rottweiler were to stand up, the dog would just run out the room. That's pretty much what this was. I think when they said they were confident they had a deal done, that was it. And the hostile takeover was stupid because you were going to have to change some minds, and they didn't, their finances were shaky to begin with. So yeah, it looks like Netman, like I said at the beginning of the show, I am not of the whole Netflix is going to destroy the theater, guys. I know it's fun to panic because it gives you content, but I really don't. Like I said before, don't listen to what people say. Don't listen to what people report on. Don't listen to what a talking head like myself will tell you on YouTube. Listen to greed. Greed has never lied. Greed tells the truth 100% of the time. Even the lies greed tells you are true. Don't look at what somebody wrote or said in an interview. Look at what they invested in. Look at where they put their money in. Look at what they don't do in response to other stuff. Greed is honest. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe YouTube number one, pundit number one. Don't have to believe in greed. Believe in greed. And greed says that they're not going to do a lot of this stuff that a lot of people are panicking about because greed dictates that you're cutting off a lot of revenue streams. You're actually retracting and making things smaller in a way that it's kind of worthless to do what you're doing. Warner Brothers distribution wing alone is worth keeping that funnel open. So I'm not, could it happen? Sure. But this whole thing reeks of greed. This whole thing is being done to consolidate. But I don't think they're going to consolidate what's going to make them more money. So, yeah, I'm going to wait and see. But I just want this fucking version to be over. Since it's kind of William, when we do watch parties, can they be our second time watching the way we can talk about a lot of that is because of scheduling.
Yeah.
A lot of that's because of scheduling, and I don't have time to watch things twice in a lot of cases. So
that's why we have to say we'll do it live.
And nobody knows what you're talking about. When you're talking about a full, I work 100 hours plus a week. I don't know what Brad's schedule is, but it's really hard to watch something twice. I mean, other than movies that we already watched. I mean, when the opportunity arises and I can do that, and we can do more commentary, then fine. But it's all due to scheduling. I'll try. That's all I can tell you. That's all I'll try. But it's really tough, especially these in the holidays and everything else. You've seen with the holidays and the retail reality is kind of havoc that's still my schedule into. So, but I will try. I'll give it an effort. So. Okie dokie. Not sure about tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah, tomorrow's
Wednesday. So I don't know. I know I'm going to be on all live on Thursday for sure. No, it's going to be earlier. It's going to be an earlier stream, and I might be on live. And I got to get with Taladia because we're doing a Harry Potter marathon on Saturday. We're going to do a fundraiser for that one. So I will get with him and we'll make the announcement to that. When I tune in to a watch party, it's like that's a lot of when we're talking about series and things like that. That's a lot of watch parties. That's not just us though. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot of watch. I will watch the watch parties, and that's why we queue them up so that we were reacting at the same time.
That's when you're seeing something for the first time.
And a lot of people don't like us talking. I've gotten a lot of people don't like us talking. Dura, I get a lot of messages about that when it's a newer stuff like it. Welcome to Dairy and some of these other things. If you notice, I don't talk a lot during those, whether I've seen them or not, simply because I can't guarantee sometimes that the person who's watching it with us is not watching it for the first. And there's things that they need to hear. So, to focus on while they're watching. So, fourth, when the situation dictates, we'll give it a try. We'll give it a shot. I think next should consolidate. with Evolve and NXT. I'm sorry, I think you meant NXT. Should evolve and integrate with fuck. I don't want WWE to merge or consolidate with anybody because then I get more WWE. And to be honest with you, it doesn't fit everywhere else. I'm seeing it when in TNA right now. It's just it doesn't. It not their style doesn't fit. I know they own AAA, but I hope they put a brand manager involved because I there's not everything that works in WWE works with those other brands. So yeah, even Evolve. Yeah, I got you, man. I used to throw Watch Party Ragers. Remember Violent Nature Watch Party? Yeah, but that was the first time I saw it though. And I wasn't talking a lot. I wasn't talking a lot to Violet till I realized what was about to happen to me in my time. That's when I started asking people questions because you all had seen it before. You guys had watched it before, and that was my first time. So what you're seeing, I probably never put that stream out, but what you were seeing in real time was me getting pissed off in real time as I realized what this movie was becoming. That wasn't a rager. That was real, but I wasn't talking throughout the movie though. There was a lot of dead signs that you guys were talking and asking me questions, but I was trying to watch the movie, and I'm like, and it's like, what's the face? Smile 2. Smile 2 was one of the most disappointing endings of a movie.
Not for me, it wasn't.
That pissed me off. I remember apologizing to our viewers because I felt like we'd all been ripped off. And like I said, Smile 3, have fun. I don't even care if I promote Smile 3. I don't care if they send me t-shirts with free.
Release the Violent Nature Watch Party.
Has that guy done another movie yet?
I think he's got one coming up. Let me look that up real quick.
Because that was his first film. I just didn't feel it was right for that to be floating out there. It's hypocritical of what I feel when it comes to filmmakers making their movie and getting their movie made. That's his first movie. I didn't feel that was appropriate for, not that anybody's fucking listening and watching me, but still, I just didn't feel right about having that out there. I'm not that kind of YouTube channel. So,
what do you think of the Avengers Hero strategy? There's going to be 4 trailers.
4 different trailers. I think they're going to be slightly different than the others. That's what I heard. I don't know how it's going to be released. That's why I've shut my brain off until I actually see the trailer. Once I see that trailer, it's game on for the next year. So, what if we reserve talkie watch part, whatever that is, for B movies and serious stuff for quite much long? That's what we're doing. Am I missing something there, Brad? That's what we do now.
Yeah.
Because B movies, who fucking cares? I don't care. I mean, but when it's next to there, there's details and stuff that I need to pay attention to in order to observe. You're viewing. Part of the appeal of those is it's live, and if you're watching it with me, more so the people who are watching it for the first time. Our watch parties for it and things like that aren't necessary for people who have seen it before. The whole point of the watch party is you're watching it along with us for the very first time. So when I'm not talking, it allows not only myself to absorb what's going on, but the viewer who's watching for the first time and is watching along with us. That's what we have an after show for. We can do all the talking afterwards. But the response is things like that. When there's an intense moment, you don't want me to have me because a lot of times when we start talking, we wander off topic and shit. And then you have a viewer who's trying to pay attention, who has chosen to watch this with us, to share the responses with us and share the experiences with us. And we're talking over lines and they can't hear them. So sometimes it's appropriate. Like when we're watching Howard the Duck, nobody fucking cares what's being said in that movie. Nobody cares. I don't care if it's your first time ever watching it. 15 minutes in, there's nothing worthwhile being said in that movie. We can talk all through that one. But when we're watching it, Welcome to Derry, where there's a lot of nuance and a lot of things that, that's being put out there, a lot of information, I try to keep the conversation to a limit. And then I try to, if I am going to talk, wait till there's dead space in what they're doing. But when there's intensity going on, I try to shut my mouth so that you guys watching along can live. But once again, we'll as time permits, we'll experiment with other things. But with those high end shows, it's going to be tough. A watch party of the Wiz. Hey, I might do the Wiz for Christmas Eve. To be honest with you. Black History Month, guys. I am weird when it comes to Black History Month. A month? A month? Wow, thanks a lot. And it's the shortest month? There is no US of A without black folks, people. Every war that we fought in, we've been there. They literally built an entire southern economy on us. Dirty bastards. That's in the past. Black history is American history. Period. Happy to have a month because we get to focus on a lot of things. That's great. But I generally, and somebody asked me last year, it might have been, I'm not sure, asked me why I would, there was a certain screening, Black-centric movie that somebody said, hey, you should do this on Black Men. And don't worry, Aaron, I know you're not offending me with this, by the way. I'm quirky this way. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I show it in October? Well, why not January? All 12 months to me are Black History months. That's just me. And as a kid, I got in trouble as a kid. Because we did Black History Month in school. We had to do it. Everybody did the whole Martin Luther King stuff, and I did Medgar Evers because he wasn't a well-known one, right? So I did but I waited. I was a little fucker. I did it on March. And I purposely got that shit in late. I got in trouble. The assignment was for Black History. I'm like, I'm still here, right? And it's March. What, does us and our history disappear in February? You guys counting them 28, 29, whatever days it is to, okay, we're done with those fools. Get on with the rest. No. I got in trouble. I got the old man. My mom had to come down to the school. Like, oh, man. But you know what? They said all the right things to the teacher, but they backed me. They backed me on that because my philosophy was a month. So you know what, Aaron? I think we might do that for one of the upcoming ones. We might do that for the New Year's Eve and the Christmas Eve one. It's a good suggestion. But yeah, Black History Month to me is like I get crazy on that one because it's like, wow. Even if you gave us a 31-day month, I'm still. It's another 12 months, huh? Let's see. Didn't even we trust you fighter trailer because it looked AI. Oh, I didn't care about the street because it looked stupid, but it wasn't made for me. It was made for Brad. It was made for a whole bunch of other people that's going to do Minecraft dollars, if not more. I'm going to stay as far away from it because I think it looks silly, and I don't have a good history when it comes to Street Fighter movies. I've learned my lesson, just like Mortal Kombat. That would be like you coming up.
You got a masterpiece in '95. You got a masterpiece of Assassin's Creed.
Last week, you kicked me in the balls. Brad comes up to me. He karate kicks me in the balls. And I'm like, oh, fuck, Brad, that hurt.
I knew that.
All right. Brad comes up to me tomorrow and says, William, trust me. I promise you I'm not going to kick you in the balls. I'm like, no, motherfucker. You got that look in your face. You got your foot ready. That's what Mortal Kombat 2021 to me. I'm not going to get kicked in the balls. That movie was an abject waste of time for me. Enjoy, people. Enjoy. I know I end up promoting it because it's Warner Brothers film. Well, it's an awful movie, dude. It's awful. It's awful. It's career-ending awful. Go find some of those people. It's awful. And I have a personal experience because, like I said, that was my turn to pick the movie, and I lost the trust of the family. I didn't get. I don't think I got a chance. I don't think I got to pick the movie.
Well, what you just say about what did you just say about like karate kicking in the balls, and then it's like, no, I'll pick the movie again this time. You won't get kicked in the balls. And
nah. They didn't even ask me. After Howard the Duck, nobody even asked me what kind of movie I wanted to see when we went to that movie. It was me, my sister, and my mom, and they're like, they vote, and I was voted. It was like I was voted off the island for one bad decision, but it was an awful movie.
Well, it was a pretty bad decision.
What did I think of? I loved it. I loved it. I loved the way they wrapped it up. I love the explanation that they give for Pennywise, that all omnipresent thing because they did not put that out. That was not something. Pennywise has been around since 1986. It was released in 1986. So we're talking about almost 40 years of 40 years of Pennywise, and that's a dimension that no one else had put in, and I loved it. I loved Richie coming through, flipping off Pennywise, and then helping him do the whole thing. That's like the only thing I liked about Ghostbusters. That movie, what's the one movie where Harold Ramis' character came up, where he helped him. He's holding on to the gun with his granddaughter. I thought that was cool. I really didn't. It wasn't for the movie. By the way, Finn Wolfman is in all that. But I liked seeing Richie come out and help him stop him. And then the throwbacks to all of it. It just binds all of it together. Even So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it's one of the best cable show, or not cable, streaming show season endings in a long time. And we've watched several of them that didn't that it's not it's hard. He wanted to use it as okay. So the military guys in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s, the Cold Warriors, that's consistent. Those guys would use, if they thought oregano could be used against the Russians or to control us as a population, dude, they would use it. That's how the military-industrial complex was after World War II. They wanted to weaponize everything. They could weaponize drugs. They tried to weaponize LSD. They wanted to weaponize everything, and they always justified it for national security reasons. And those guys of that era, you're watching protests, you're watching civil rights, and he even said it. They saw that as chaos. And if you're in the military, not to that extent, those guys in the 60s, but you grew up and you made a career out of order. Chaos is not your thing. You don't want chaos around. So that was the mentality around that. Exactly. American history. We are everywhere in your history books, guys. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. I mean, we're here before the country. Our existence here literally it predates the country. So, yeah, I get a moth. Think that.
So Stephen King tried all them drugs. Yes, he did.
Oh yeah, and it shows. What about Quantum William? Can we watch Wild Things in Solidarity? This is why did I bring that up?
I'm not. This isn't. This is
Brock already said he's next up, so it's Brock.
This isn't. What's the best way to put this? Because you mentioned Kwanzaa, it's like I've never met. Like how widespread is the celebration of Kwanzaa? Because I don't think I've ever met
it's
any.
Relatively new, but it's pretty significant. Okay, all right, Omega.
I've never met like a black family that celebrates. I'm like asking that legitimately.
I mean, it's not as big as It's not All right, so Omega. Obviously, you've been on the show. I know you're an African American, so I'm gonna. This is not directed at you. This is directed at everyone that will ever be in the sound of my voice. Never say this to a black person.
Yeah. He said he takes more offense at this than a word that begins with N.
Never say this to a black person. This is one of the two things you never say to a black person. One of them is this. And the other one, and I'm going to vomit in my mouth, but I'm going to try to say it without losing my shit. You sound white. Never, ever say that to black people. Never say that to black people. Even if you think you mean well. So this is not towards Omega. This is towards anybody who will ever watch this show. Do yourself a favor. There are certain rules that could change the trajectory of your contact and communication and friendship with black people. Never say this.
Again, William has said, he said on the report, like he takes greater offense to being told he sounds white than being called.
If you call me the NGGER, you're paying me more respect than you are when you tell me this or that I sound white. And the reason is why, and I've explained this before. You're kind of saying that there's this club of etiquette and sentence making and structure, and that I'm not invited in. Some people don't mean it that way. Most people don't. But I always tell you, I always kind of turn and give them a look. What's that supposed to mean? because I'm gonna throw this at you. When you say that you're the least black person I know, or you sound white, the fuck were you was I supposed to sound like? That's what scares me more. I'm more horrified of what you think I'm supposed to sound like than what you just said, because then all the stereotypes start popping in my head, and I'm like, I try to speak in complete sentences. I try to use words I know. The sentence structure in the English language doesn't even belong to America. It belongs to the English. So it's not like there's a copyright. You know, we don't have to file for a patent to speak or sound or look a certain way, guys. So yeah, those are the type of things that you just, in my opinion, you just don't say to
Have
black people.
you?
Hold on for a second.
Okay.
Other black people are guilty of doing it to black folks too, and it's about split halfway. I would just suggest that you change.
I was gonna ask, like, have you ever had another black person tell you sound like a white person when you speak?
Yeah, and I've gone completely off. I've gotten better about that. And my exact words: "What the fuck was I supposed to sound like? The fuck what was the alternative, huh? What were you expecting?" And I'm harsh towards when it comes to black folk, because you are propagating that, you are promoting that. You as a black person are pushing that narrative that we're supposed to look and sound a certain way, other than what I sound like. And so young black people are looking at you as an example, and you're spreading that onto them instead of saying, you know what, why don't you just learn how to read and write and use use proper phonetics, Now, when you're with your buddies, that's fine, but when you should never ever tell somebody that, because you realize you don't realize what you're saying, but you're saying that there's this little, on the top shelf are all the big,
there's this barrier,
yeah, and at the bottom shelf is the crumbs and cornflakes that we get to eat, and we get to make sentences out of those. I have access to the same shit that you guys do to a certain degree. So yeah, I understand most people don't mean any ill by it. And I've gotten better about not completely going. Old William would have just been like, just went off. I've had teachers that have done that shit. I've had coworkers that have done that shit. I've had military folks that have done that shit, and it was a problem in every one of those to a certain point. Now I just give them that look. Now I don't need to go off the handle. Now I'm like, excuse me, what did you say? And people do that. Oh, I didn't mean to offend. Oh, okay, yeah, because yeah. And then I kind of can leave the dead air there and turn about what we were saying. I hate that. Like I said, that is worse than you calling me that word. That word, because at least I know the intentions right there. But that is something you should never say, and you should never spread that. You should encourage people, everybody that lives in America, to communicate. It is important that I am able to communicate on all walks of life that I live in. I can't make my case for you to do anything in the worlds that I live in if I can't communicate with you. Communication is important. Being able to set the tone for what you're about to say is important. Being able to understand me is important, and it is important to all of us, not just some of us. But yeah, here we go. All right.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, Clint says you do kind of sound like Grover the Cookie Monster combined.
Well, voice-wise, yeah. Voice-wise, that's a different thing. I do sound like a Muppet, but that's not, you can't, there's no getting around. As a historian, I don't know this in the politics about history. No, I understand what I'm just joking with you, and like I said, to me, it's more from an American to an American point of view. We get a moth.
Did you guys ever, anybody in the chat ever see? Because one show I watched on Nickelodeon when I was a kid, it was the Adventures of the Secret Life of Alan Strange, and it's about this alien. He's from this race of this alien race. They're kind of made of energy, but they can alter their appearance, and so he gets stranded on Earth, and he takes on the appearance of like a 13-year-old black kid, and so he kind of he gets taken in by this family, and he's kind of living life with them until he's able. It's a little bit like an ET thing where he's trying to get home, and then it gets to they did an episode on Black History Month, and he's at their school, and so everybody does a project on Black History Month, and his the way he does it is he comes up to the front of the classroom and says, "So the color black is like on this end of the color spectrum, and it's like it's on the opposite end of white, and it's like it's so it's like literally like the actual color black, and and then the teacher had to, no, we're not. That's not what we refer to when we say Black History,
This,
and then it's actually kind of an interesting episode because then because he actually starts researching history and
this is the problem with not talking to people, and this is the problem with just assuming things. You know, this is why when we were talking last night. I don't know if you were here last night. We were talking about Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker had conversations that we were afraid to have, and this the kind of assumptions come from not talking to people. And in the military, you have no choice. The greatest thing about the military is you have no fucking choice. You are going to exist with these people. You're going to exist with the redneck. You're going to exist with the city folk. You're going to exist with the immigrant. You are all going to exist. You have no choice. And you are all going to work for a common cause. You're going to sweat and break with each other. You're going to go to wars with each other. And you are going to be forced to learn an appreciation for every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Harriet around you in a way that the civilian will not. Because schools aren't it all the time. Yeah, we all go to the same schools, but we leave. After 8 hours, we leave. Work, we leave. In the military, you exist in an environment where you live with those people. You live the life with those people. I always say you don't have to join the military, but get out of your bubble. Ask questions. No such thing as a dumb question. If it makes you more informed about what someone's heritage is, then it's not a dumb question. I'd rather have you ask than assume. So, no, Billy G. No, when MTV didn't want to have black music on, their station Billy G came up.
David Bowie came around.
David Bowie came along because David Bowie came along, and then Epic Records basically said, "Listen, he's right, and if you don't start showing more black, we're not going to allow you to show. We're not because Billy Jean was already out when David Bowie had that conversation, and they said, you know what." He's fucking right. We're not going to let you. And then that was a deal breaker right there. And kudos. I've said this before several times. When it comes to David Bowie, that moment, I think, listen, I love his music. But if I had never heard his music and it's him sitting there, he did the thing that a whole bunch of executives and agents couldn't and wouldn't do. David Bowie, I don't think people understand. David Bowie put his career on the line.
He was
Mark Goodman about that.
He was a hero just for one day, you might say. Is it Aaron? Me and Axel being Australians, we were in outside world. I using more colorful Oscar. Oh, Aaron, this is what I love about the Mad Max movies. I learned so much Australian slang from them. Like one of my favorite quotes from Fury Road is when one of the Immortan Joe's wives, when they're in the truck, she says to Max, he's a crazy smeggy schlanger. It's like I had
so apparently you guys are deleting Max's comments, and I'm still seeing them.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like a back and forth in the chat about that.
I don't know. Wow, even Clinton is asking for your drugs. Clint's high. Clint's high, and he's looking for what you're on. But yeah, when it comes to that, guys, and dude, I'll have a customer. I'll have a cut. Just drive me crazy. I'll talk to him on the phone. Hey, I got this coming in. Okay, I'll be down in a second. I'll come down. And they come down, right? This is back in the day. I don't get this as much now.
And then like they'll say, I thought you were white talking over the phone.
No, they'll walk around. They're looking for the owner. It's like, is the owner here? I'm like, yeah, it's me. Oh, I want the guy I talked to on the phone. And I'll know, yeah, I recognize your voice. You don't recognize mine? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought you were. And then they said, cut it off. This is years ago. But you know what? I don't take as much offense to that anymore. Because you know what? Habits. This is the world was reared to. You got to say something about that. You got to say something. You got to have those conversations, and they're not always comfortable.
Well, I mean, I would think like hearing your voice over the phone and in person. I mean, it's like kind of hard to miss.
There are some people from certain generations that couldn't see. Listen, and it's just unfortunate. I believe I am the only black owner in Las Vegas as far as my business.
Really?
I don't think there's some come and goes, but I believe, and if I'm not, because I haven't been to every store, but
Only black business
I'm the,
owner in
the
Vegas?
only black comic book store owner.
Okay.
Comes to that, I believe, but it never really mattered because once again, comic books was a brotherhood where that didn't matter. I didn't really think about it until a little bit ago, and I'm like, I'm just But so some people look at the guy behind the desk, and they don't necessarily expect. But this was back in like the 90s. Now with the internet, now with I've been on covers of magazines here in Vegas. People know who I am, so
I remember
it's a little bit harder to get away.
I had an English teacher in high school. He was black, and and he'd been teaching for about like 30 years. At this point, like when I was about like in junior senior year, and he shared the story in class one time where he mentioned that when he was like early years of his teaching career, he would be like in the teacher's lounge, and another teacher would come in and say to him something like, "Oh yeah, there's like a mess in the boys' room. Can you go clean that up?" or something to that effect.
Yeah, guys, when you block, I still see it unless you get. I'm not ready to ban him right now. I'm just looking at some of the stuff he's saying, and I'm just. Omega, I hope you're okay, man. I just really do. I'm not joking. I really hope you're okay. All right.
Really,
on that note,
you have to wonder though, like what?
Yeah.
If Clint, what's whatever you're on, man.
All right, guys. Well, that went off. So we'll see you tomorrow. Oh no, I won't see you tomorrow. I will see you on Thursday, unless something goofy happens and I feel the need to talk about it. But I have all of Thursday free, so we might do some special stuff on Thursday. We might do a couple of streams on Thursday. Sure. I don't know why Paul McCartney and never mind. All right. Like, subscribe. Also, if you're having issues, it's the holidays. I know we have fun, we joke here, but this is a tough time of year. Shit, the whole year's been tough, but this is the holidays are about family and togetherness and stuff like that. And some people don't have anybody. Some people have lost to somebody, and you're going through all this crazy stuff by yourself. You're absorbing all these awful things on the news by yourself. And it has to be that way. It does not have to be that way. You can do one of two things. You can come watch my channel, and yet you can clearly see I am welcoming, no matter how weird you are. Or if you get on the deep end, dial pound, or not even pound anymore, 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call 988, press 1 to reach the military. This is the military one, but once again, they will not turn you away. You can text 838-255 and chat 988lifeline.org/chat. Too many ways for you to go and get the help you need for it to end up bad. And we will be doing, we have 2 last marathons. Actually, no, we have 3. I'm sorry, because the Harry Potter one will be an AFSP one. So we have 3 ways to get. And
I told William I'm gonna try. There are a couple of other YouTube channels I'm thinking about. I want to reach out to and say, hey, we're gonna do a couple more AFSP drives. Can you guys? And if you want to come aboard, obviously, everybody's welcome. But also just stay just on social media or on your channel. Just kind of let people know that we're doing this. We want to kind of get over this last 2,000 whatever.
Christmas Eve one we're gonna have Watchmen because we have 2 ones that we couldn't finish the last time. Because I scheduled them and then they would have put us to like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. So New Year's, I don't mind doing that for. I don't mind doing that for because we're up all night and it's Vegas. Yeah. But
for Christmas, we also got to do. We have to put Liar Liar on for Christmas.
No,
why not? It's for charity, man.
I can't. Nope. Unless somebody donates to put it on, we can't do it. I can't stand that movie.
It's comedy over me.
You need help. All right. So, okay. Yeah. All right. See you Thursday, guys.
All right. See you guys.
Like, subscribe, share, get help if you need it. Because some of you clearly do. Goodbye.
See ya.